Welcome back, and thank you.
Thank you.
What an extraordinarily beautiful, powerful, touching, poignant movie. We have so much to talk about, I know. But first of all, thank you and congratulations. Thank you for being here. Thank you for bringing this film out into the world. Where did this come from inside of you?
Well, thank you so much. I'm really, really happy that it affected you like that and that you enjoyed it. Basically, it came to me in a dream. A lot of my screenplays do. And this, when I was younger, about 5 years ago, my little cousin, she passed away from cancer at 17.
Is that who you dedicate the film to?
Nicole at the end, yeah. And she had been battling it for a good 5 years, and her mother passed away before that. And I had experienced a lot of death, but with her it was interesting. She was just so positive the whole time, and that positivity absolutely changed my life. And it was so inspirational to me that seeing literally her through everything that she went through, I had to bring somehow that positivity that she had and share it with the world if I could. So, and then my uncle is hearing impaired, and I was a singer-songwriter at the times in my life. So I just sort of saw this mesh of things come together, and what I did was I told myself, okay, I want this to be organic and beautiful. I want to do it justice. So I basically dreamt about it for 2 weeks and wrote little notes when I woke up, and then I wrote the screenplay in 2 days. It just sort of came out. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy 2 days. But it was
So
very
when
organic.
you said you dreamed about it for 2 weeks, how did that process work?
Well, you know, it's the 5th screenplay I've written was Listen to Your Heart, and I found that I was editing a lot, and once you sort of pick a direction, it's hard to reformat a script when you don't really get what you want out of it. So I figured I wanted to do a lot of that editing in my head, you know, and by the time I had written or started writing, I already knew exactly what I wanted to say. So it was so much easier. The first draft is very close to the final. So.
And 3 months later you were shooting.
Yeah, 3 months later we were shooting. It's a pretty wild ride.
It's a beautiful film, and I said I have a number of things I want to talk to you about, but I want to let Neile jump in here first.
Sure.
Okay. I usually watch the films by myself, but I actually had a friend with me, and that was perfect because I wanted to see how somebody else was reacting to it. And we were reacting almost exactly the same way. We got immediately emotionally invested in your characters. And, you know, just this sense of complete sympathy and just warmth towards your character, Danny. And then when Sam came on board, she's so adorable.
She is.
And, you know, when I was watching her performance, I kept thinking, this is familiar to me. And I couldn't, where have I seen these sort of same mannerisms and things? And it reminded me of the movie The Little Mermaid, when Ursula takes her voice and she has to use only her hands and her facial expressions to talk to the prince. And she's so animated with her hands and her face that you're just captivated by that. And the actress that played Sam just totally nailed that. And,
she's great, yeah.
And there's something about having, you know, when you quieted things down, my friend and I were literally leaning forward, like trying to catch her every expression. Because it just became so important for the scenes. I was completely blown away by her performance in some of the scenes, and also by yours. And I thought that, and please correct me because this is not my industry, but is it called cinematography?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Beautiful. It was so romantic and soft and gentle, and also the makeup. When you got sick, when your character got sick, it was extremely convincing. I mean, it was hard not to, you know, realize that you were looking at somebody that was actually quite ill. So overall, it's just absolute beautiful, beautiful movie. But I did have a question to ask you.
Sure.
When you were speaking to her near the end of the movie, and you were talking about the ducklings, how the ducklings flew away, and,
right.
but they didn't need you anymore.
Right.
Was that her? Was she your duckling?
Well, I was my character was leaving, and she needed to be okay with that. I was sort of like my parting words to her, knowing that I'm gonna be gone soon. But thank you so much for those wonderful things.
That love scene is one of the most beautiful. It's so hard to do. I mean, I know love scenes are so hard to do, It's such a beautiful film. And I told you when we first met here this morning that I was stunned when it took the turn, and as you get into the third act about you being ill and then dying. I did not see that coming. And we talked about that a lot among ourselves here. And I really went through a lot of questioning in my mind, not about are we going to have this film, because that was set in all of our minds the minute the film was finished. But should I warn our audience that this film may take a change? And you should be, and I thought no, because that's really robbing the audience and that's being controlling on my part. I know it took a big change. And as I talked about at the beginning of this volume, this is a month, the holidays, in which a lot of people are missing departed loved ones. And the fact that your character inspired her so much to live the life that she could live, when you see her going into that music academy at the end of the film, it is so uplifting and it's so positive, and it brings such a sense of love and hope that life is indeed for the living. And I got that message so much through this film, that we love people. People come in and out of our lives. It's devastating for us when we lose them, but that life is for the living. There's just so many great messages in this movie, Ken, and such a beautiful film.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
So now, tell me, how long ago was this finished?
Oh, about 2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago. And tell me what's happened with the film.
Oh, we've been really, really pleased. We were able to get a 2-week theatrical run, and we also...
Wow.
Yeah, which is difficult these days. But we also toured around the country with festivals, and we won some great awards. And it was really the most rewarding thing for me was seeing people's reactions to the movie and hearing all their different thoughts and how it affected them. And yeah, and so then we got picked up by Osiris and Warner Brothers, did the video on demand, and it's been great, you know. And now it's on Netflix and iTunes and all that.
Well, I have to say that, and I've talked about this here before, 1 out of every 200 films that get financed in this way ever sees the light of a movie screen.
Right.
You know, this is one of the great challenges that we have now in saving movies from going extinct, which is a powerful message, something that one of the reasons that I wrote my book about bringing back the old Hollywood is because movies are in such danger. And getting, particularly independent films like this, and I just have to say to our audience, that is an extraordinary feat, getting a film that was financed independently and getting it into a movie theater is quite a testament, to how really beautiful the film is. And I can tell you, it's been a long time since I've been this touched by a movie. Really,
that means
really,
a lot. Thank you.
This deeply touched by a movie. It is a perfect film for now. One other thing that I wanted to say is that I've talked about Matty Stepanek here before, the young boy that had, I believe it was muscular dystrophy. It may have been cystic fibrosis, but I think it was muscular dystrophy, that died at the age of 12 or 13 after inspiring so many people for such a long time. The character that you wrote for yourself reminded me of that character, of someone who was here to inspire this young woman, despite her tyrannical mother, and Sybil played that part really well.
Yes, she
Yes,
did.
indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure she loved playing that part too, because that's the kind of part that actors love playing.
Yeah, she had a lot of
it's really one thing to be good, but boy, it's fun to be evil, and actors really love doing that. It's a wonderful movie. Anything else that you wanted to?
Well, since you mentioned Sybil, I have to say, my friend and I, we both cheered when she got slapped, and then I immediately felt bad because I love her so
She
much.
would be thrilled to hear it.
But we were like, yes, and then I was like, had to back off of that because it was just so good to see her. But just getting to know Kent a little bit, and knowing that a lot of the songs in the movie are original music that he wrote.
The music's beautiful.
Thank you.
Just beautiful.
And I just, I was sharing with him on the ride up here that I have a musical background as well, and I started out in college in voice and theater, and I ended up changing majors. But I think because I have that background, I have such a protective feeling about artists. And I always want to encourage them and support them and do whatever I can to let them shine. I love building self-esteem in artists of any age. And so I'm just really proud of him to see him, follow his dream and to make something so beautiful that he can be proud of, because at the end of the day, that's your child. And you're putting it out there to the world, and you just want people to love it, and I think everybody's going to love it.
Thank you so much. And it's been so rewarding, because for me, this movie wasn't about, making money or having a huge financial success. It was more about spreading the word of that positivity through that character, and who really represented my cousin, essentially, my character. And I think just hearing you guys speak and some other people that have seen the movie, it seems like that's happened, so it's very great.
Well, I will tell you, you will have the great fortune for the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years to have from time to time people say, oh, you did that movie. Oh, I remember Listen to Your Heart, that movie. I loved that movie. And it will mean more to you when you hear it in 5 years and in 15 years and in 20 years, because that is really the test of a film. Is does it stand the test of time, and do people remember it with fondness? And people will remember this movie with fondness. And I also, just because I want to support you as a filmmaker, as a writer, as a performer, it's really encouraging for me to see young people like yourself making this kind of film. Osiris, which distributed this film, I had a conversation with the folks there after we got this film in Oprah from last month, and it was really interesting because they told me this is when filmmakers come to them and say, well, what kind of film should we be doing? They talk about your film.
Oh, really?
They say,
great.
do films like that. People want films, and this was wonderful for us to hear, and for me to hear. People want films with heart and soul that make you feel better. And the fact that you've done that, I hope you will continue to do that during your career. You have a family and a community here that will always support you. If there's anything that I can ever do to help you, I would love to, because I want to see you making many more of these movies in the future.
Oh, thank you so much. And that's really my goal, is because I think there is a missing aspect of that in theater right now, So I'd love to make more.
Well, we look forward to the next one and the next one and the next one. And thank you for being here. And Neile, thank you so much.
Can I add one thing to this?
Sure.
Because it's so relevant, just, talking about films and the importance of films. And I read your book, Bringing Back the Old Hollywood. I read it shortly after you first talked about it, and Bringing Back the Old Hollywood, and I absolutely loved it.
Thank you.
I'm not a quick reader, only because I'm so busy that I have a very small amount of time to read every night, but I picked up your book and I read it late into the night. I read it in the morning before I got ready for work, and I had it done in a couple of days. It's a quick read because it's just so interesting, and it's thank you for letting us into your life like that.
You're welcome.
And just, I would encourage any person that's going to be working in the movies to read that book, because it's just so full of so many good tips about your audience and embracing people that are in Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, Act 2 and Act 3 of their lives, and just, expanding your horizons for a little bit more mature audience, more uplifting films. And when you were talking about the longevity of a film and it standing the test of time, every person I've told about you, I just say, somewhere in time and what dreams may come, and immediately they have an emotional reaction. I love that film. Please tell them I love that film, they say. So I'm letting you know that. And also your outlook on the future of film and all of your ideas, and particularly the summit of, in the new coalition, and bringing in the screenwriters and the directors and the film lovers, and just, getting people together and talk about the future of movies and where that's going. And it's just an amazing book, and I really hope that everybody will read
that's
it.
a beautiful and totally unexpected surprise. Thank you. That's really lovely. I'm very touched by that. You kind of like now rendered me speechless twice on this volume. And,
I can't wait
I'm
to
sure
read
the
it.
people back here are saying, okay, nothing makes him shut up. Wow. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. I'm so glad that it spoke to you. And thank you for adding everything that you did this month. I'm very respectful of what you're doing with the work that you're doing with inmates. I'm so glad that our films make it into that environment, and thank you for taking them in. And Kent, as I said, we are going to be with you and rooting you forward. Thank you both for being with us. Thank you for being with us in this month of November. We'll be back next month in December, when we're going to have a very special film for you called A Not So Still Life, which is also going to be very inspirational and very uplifting as we end 2011 and go into 2012. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. I hope you have a wonderful holiday. Those of you who are with family, appreciate them, hold them close to you, give them a smile. And those of you who are alone and maybe feeling a little low this month, we send you much love and a very big hug. And we'll see you next month.